All right, I think this is the last part, and I'd really like to devote this to, I guess, another method, not really a development or anything, but a new method in order to fight different types of diseases and viruses and whatnot. And basically, what it boils down to is I'm gonna single out one thing just because of its prevalence, maybe not necessarily its dangerousness, but herpes. And I think that, I mean, if you don't know this, but apparently something like 95% of the world's population are either carriers or have the herpes virus. And not only that, but very virulent strains have been found in other species and have actually been very detrimental to, I heard, coral reefs and whatnot. So I think it would be very beneficial for our society, 95% of the freaking people in the world, to at least take a serious look at this one, just because of its high prevalence is some and that, and obviously AIDS, and can be basically interchangeable with what I'm talking about right now. A lot of the treatment that goes into these viruses, I believe, and this is the method part. I believe it should be the profit should be taxed. What I mean by that is basically any product that profits from the treatment of one of these two viruses should go back into research and development for cure. And that way, I don't know if you know a lot about the pharmaceutical industries, or, heard conspiracy theories about them or whatever, but this is obviously a really bad conspiracy theory, but you never know what's possible. So I'm just going to put it out there. It is more profitable to treat a disease than it is to cure it, because you have this continued need for medications and whatnot. But if you were to cure it, then it's gone. You don't owe them anything anymore. So, that being said, I don't necessarily believe in that. I'm just saying it could technically be a possibility. I keep an open mind about things. But anyway, this would be one way to counteract that. And what we would do is, like I said, tax any profits they had a pretty heavy percent. And that way, that could go back into research. And then another thing is to kind of centralize research. There's tons of grants and all this and all that all over the place at different universities, blah, 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 everywhere. Unfortunately, a lot of the problem is, yes, you get a lot of diversity, but you also kind of waste a lot of funds on facilities and paying multiple people's salaries that you only really need the one person for. And if you were to centralize it, you'd all have like a central lab facility where you can bounce ideas off of each other, work out different treatment angles, different methods of that you're working on, because there are so many different ways in which to cure or stop a virus. And you never know, you could be working on one thing and he could be working on something else. And like, if you were to just look at each other's research or chat with each other about it, you could figure out like the missing piece in each other's and then make it work together to where it'd be fucking amazing. So, centralizing it and then getting the feedback from one another, creating large facilities with directed purposes at overall public welfare, I think is a really big priority, obviously, because I've said this before, I care about people and their safety and their health and stuff like that. So I think this would help that out a lot. That's just one facet. So there's the taxing the profits and centralizing. Another thing for these two viruses specifically, I've been told this has been tried before and it didn't really work, but I think it just wasn't very publicized because I never heard about it. But basically, dating websites. Dating websites are huge on the internet right now. They've been for a while. It's not like they're just booming today or anything, or just jumping on the bandwagon for them or something like that. But they've become a means to where people can pick and choose what it is that they want in a person. And this kind of works on a multiple levels. And I know it sounds kind of weird, but just let me just kind of listen to the whole thing before you dismiss it first. But obviously, you don't, not that you don't want to be with the person that has one of these diseases, but you probably don't. But it's also pretty hard, I'd imagine, on those people that do have them, that don't want to hurt anyone else in the form of infection or anything like that. So this is a way to bring those people together so that they could, still find people to be with, and also as kind of a containment for the viruses themselves. So not only would you be able to set this up to where you would be able to profit from a site, and those profits could be used for research for that, but you'd also, since it would be a virus specific like dating site, for one, to protect people's confidentiality, you'd have to get tested, and once you got tested and confirmed that you had the virus, then you'd be given a code that you would use to get access to it. So people wouldn't be able to just go there and see who has it, to make fun of them or whatever. So none of that. So don't have to worry about that. Like I said, it would bring people together in an effort not only to contain but also to profit from that, so that you can take the profits and put it back into research. But also, you'd identify all, it would encourage identification of the people with the virus, either AIDS or herpes, and then you'd be able to have a bigger subject pool. If you had any tests, you'd be able to advertise for new treatments that you develop or advertise volunteer necessities, and you'd have your exact demographics that you'd want. All their profile information would be there, and you'd be able to just, email them, hey, would you like to participate? Because if you just need people of this age or this age range or male or female or whatever, but you'd have access to it. So, in effect, what this overall system would do is, let me just to recap basically, you would be taxing any type of treatments, ointments, pills, patches, whatever, the profits from those back into research. You would be centralizing the research. You'd be kind of isolating those people without like quarantining them, you know what I mean? So you're not like making a move anywhere or anything like that in their own little communities. That would be weird. And then you'd be making the profits from those sites, and then which would give you access to your subject pool and any type, like if you just needed more testing, more samples of the virus, anything like that. You'd have just unbridled access, all that. I'm fairly certain that if you created a bill in Congress, direct action to prevent the spread of AIDS and or herpes virus and cures them bill, and it included all these things, I'm fairly certain you would have the cure very soon, very, very soon. There's no reason why it would, because funding is just really a lot of the problems with a lot of these things and developing these vaccines and these cures and whatnot. And then I know I focused on these two a little bit too much, but only because they're viral and they integrate the dating. And that once these two viruses are cured, you can move on to other viruses if there are different ones out there that you'd like to cure, and eventually move on to other things, like diabetes, cancer, any other form of things. Once you have that centralized medical establishment, established, you could amend the bill to include other types of treatment. Just basically start sucking in all the other things. Like once it's established, start curing things one by one by one by one, taxing the proceeds for the treatments, bringing all in, and then bringing in the new scientists with fresh perspectives and whatnot, and just knocking those fucking things out one by one and just curing everything. Because all of these viruses and disorders and weird things that go on with our bodies and stuff like that, it's just at some point it becomes odd to us now to think like, why do these things still exist? Why this, why that? We've advanced so much, there's just no reason for these things to continue happening to good people in our society. So hopefully, like I said, we can knock those things out.